Today I'm speaking with the one and only Zoltan Istvan. Zoltan Istvan is almost synonymous with the word transhumanism, and it's just a very well-known figure inside the transhumanist movement, and he's been showcased on many of the major news outlets and goes all around the world talking to various political leaders in different countries discussing life extension and AI and robotics and gene therapies and all of these transhumanist subjects. And so let's check out my Skype talk.
My great pleasure to present to you our wise and powerful leader, Zoltan.
Zoltan! Zoltan!
Hey everyone, this is the Science-Based Species channel, and today we're talking with Zoltan Istvan. He is a very prominent transhumanist and actually ran for presidency, the US presidency in 2016, and you founded the United States Transhumanist Party, right?
That's correct, in 2014.
Awesome. And you recently just ran for the California governor in 2018.
That's right. I ran as a libertarian for California governor, but in 2016 I ran for the Transhumanist Party. But even my libertarian run was very transhumanist based.
Yeah, that's awesome. You're getting like such great experience in activism and transhumanism. I watched a bunch of your videos, and you do a great job at defining what transhumanism is. Could you do that quickly for us?
Yeah, absolutely. Transhumanism is now a social movement of many millions of people. I used to say it was just like a few million people, but it's spread so much in the last few years. It's gotten a lot bigger, but it's a social movement of people that want to use radical science and technology to modify the human being and also to modify the human experience. It can be anything from kind of exoskeleton suits that allow you to climb Mount Everest. It can be brain implants. It can even be simple things like driverless cars, but whatever it is, it's radical technology that alters the human landscape.
Yeah. And so, with all this great experience, what are your next steps for in the transhumanist movement?
Well, I'm still thinking about a presidential run in 2020, or at least maybe a run for Senate or something like that.
Awesome.
I'm just seeing how the landscape unfolds and what's happening in politics, and I don't really ever have a chance to win, at least not yet. But I have a chance to, get some news, spread the movement, and frankly, political runs are a pretty good way to spread a movement if you want to kind of just get people to know more about transhumanism. And frankly, that's a great goal of just the movement itself, just to get more people considering these ideas and whether they work for them.
Yeah, I heard in a video you said that you plan on continuing to attempt to run over the next 20, 30 years, and because you know that this movement's going to be so big by then, and with all your experience, you'll have a great chance, especially by then.
Well, it's funny, think of how Bernie Sanders has done it. Like 30 years ago, he was saying essentially the same thing he's saying now. Yeah. The only difference is that now democratic socialism, not that I'm a big fan of it, but democratic socialism is now a huge movement in America. And he happens to be, the man who sort of pushed it forward all these decades. And I'm hoping, that sort of we might end up in 20 or 30 years, and hopefully I'm still alive and in good health, that, I'm someone people will look to and say, wow, if we want a transhumanist candidate, Zoltan's done a really good job over a couple of decades of pushing this movement forward. And that might be my moment to actually win one of these elections.
Yeah. Are you going to drive the immortality bus again? If you run for 2020?
This is a tough question. And so for your viewers who don't know, the immortality bus is a 40-foot bus that's shaped just like a giant coffin. It's an amazing vehicle to get a lot of attention. For example, if you drive it, let's say downtown Los Angeles in rush hour, you can get thousands and thousands of people every few minutes just looking, what is that, and thinking about it. And then you have your website on the bus, and they can figure out you're trying to stop death with science and technology, because that's a major component of transhumanism. Well, the problem, though, is that the bus did so well and got me so popular that I took my own career to sort of a next level. And at that next level, the immortality bus is a little bit too wacky to be mixing that on campaigns anymore, because here I am talking to heads of state, here I am talking to senators and all these other things. You can't be too weird anymore. When I started off trying to build a name in my in the campaigns, it was okay to be weird and eclectic. Now I've become, I suppose, professional and enough of a public figure where I have to be cautious to do too many wacky things because then I won't be taken seriously. So
Okay.
I'm not sure whether I'll drive the Immortality bus again, but we are trying to donate it to a major museum, so you'll probably hear about it again for
Awesome.
sure.
Great. Yeah, and immortality and life extension, that's just such an incredibly important movement. Especially when people start getting to 140, 150, I'm sure 10 years from now, 15 years from now, people will start to really get the grasp of how truly important it is to extend our lifespans. Do you personally think you are going to achieve an extended lifespan of hundreds and thousands of years?
Well, I do, and I hope so, and I think so. I think in barring some kind of tragedy, the problem is, okay, I'm 46. My father had his first heart attack at 51. He eventually passed away from his fifth heart attack at age 73. There will probably have these life extension technologies by the time 20 or 30 years comes by. That'll be right around the time, if I could continue without a tragedy, fighting this idea to kind of go make it or not make it. And if I don't, I'm not really sure. You know, it's going to be a tough moment.
You're going to be like a 6-year-old president candidate that looks like a 20-year-old.
Yeah, yeah,
very rejuvenated.
And I hope I will make it, but you know, it's going to be a very close call for me. You guys are younger than me. You have a better chance of not fighting this. Maybe you make it, maybe you don't make it. In, you know, when you say living indefinitely or living thousands of years.
Yeah, I was reading your article, and the interesting point about you running. It's not about so much winning right now, but as you said, like Bernie Sanders or my stepfather once said, you know, he may not win as a president, but he's brought a lot of, you know, ideas to the forefront. Has been going for a while. So, just like kind of you're getting that attention. You know, you're getting that so that people are going to be thinking more about it. And then after, you know, a time, I thought that was a very interesting point you made. But the other thing I think about, oh yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was just saying, you know, a lot of people think the movement is actually like changing the world right now, but a lot of it is just spreading the movement, getting people to ask questions. And so in that way, publicity is really one of the major tactics of, I mean, think of it like the environmental movement 20 years ago. Their first job was not to save rainforests. It was to get people to think differently, that maybe we should save the rainforest. Transhumanism is in that kind of thing right now.
Yeah. That's a lot of good things to get people to start opening their minds and thinking about these different ideas. And yeah, that's kind of like our channel is like, we want people to come and listen to these different ideas, whether it be stem cells or gene therapy, life extension, you know, all these different technologies that not a lot of people know about, but are on the horizon and are going to radically change the way we live our lives. Or like for you said, you want to live long enough to make it to that point. For example, for me, before I learned about these kind of life extension things, like because I got injured in a skiing accident, so I have a spinal cord injury. I don't know if you can see, but I'm in a power wheelchair, and so basically, science and technology pretty much saved my life. And look, this is kind of cool. I can kind of go up and down.
Yeah, for this YouTube channel, we're hoping to have John walk again. You know, review various technologies like an exoskeleton, or even down the line of like new robotic legs, or get him some stem cell treatment in his spine. But he's had a spinal cord injury for longer than 4 years, so he has a bunch of scar tissue built up. But John's found some new research where he can degluing the scarring.
Well, like that, and there's also now they have epidural stimulators that are coming along, and those things are kind of like a pacemaker for your heart, and that's something that's going to be, I think, more likely than fully instead of regenerative. It's more like a pacemaker or an implant or something like that will kind of help the spine make new neural networks by kind of like stimulating it with electricity and stuff.
I mean, whatever happens, I would be very surprised if you don't take your first steps in the next 3 years.
Yeah,
and I would really start betting money against it in the next 5.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
What's more important, I'd say, how old are you now?
I'm 28, going on 29.
Yeah, I would say by the time you're 38, what's really going to be interesting is I'm pretty sure you're going to run faster as a 38-year-old than you ever ran before the injury. And that's really the funny thing that's happening is, I do quite a few articles. I'm formerly with National Geographic. Now I've been writing for both Times and other places and stuff like that. And, the Special Olympics or kind of, Paralympics, there's no question in my mind that they are getting some of the most radical technologies, and they will actually be faster than the Olympians probably within a decade's time, either through the different types of technologies that they use or the different types of chemicals and drugs that they use. And what's baffling about that is really we're going to be all, to some extent, superhuman, but it's some of the people that actually have the disabilities now that are going to have the very first opportunities to start using this. And we might find this very quickly that they become this super strong, super fast runner. So, but anyways, I would say that's all within a 10-year, definitely within a 15-year life. Again, barring, the biggest question here is we don't have some kind of nuclear war or some kind of government thing. That's the big danger for all of us, is not that with the technologies don't come. They're coming, and they're coming faster than ever. It's the fact that something else, an asteroid even, or a plague, those are the things that could really harm humanity and harm the transhumanist movement. But I believe if we did this podcast in 10 years, it would be very different. We could be doing it from a jog together.
Yeah, we should make a plan on meeting up in 10 years from now and racing John when he's mobile and has legs.
What you said is really funny. It's like it gives the whole different meaning to the word Special Olympics, or you call it the Super Olympics.
Oh, and there's no question. Just when I looked at some of the technologies, the things that they're doing, the genetic enhancements, the different types of technologies. I mean, the stuff that they want. We've one of the things in my 2016 campaign we advocated for was a transhumanist Olympics, where you really emphasize people become sort of like race cars. It's like Formula One. The real innovators are actually the engineers, and not only the driver anymore, and the scientists behind the products. And there's already shots that you can take that, like PCP shots, whatever, but more adrenaline shots that make you super strong, that can allow you to lift like twice what you would normally lift. The problem, though, is from all the different perspectives of what's legal and what's morally right, we don't allow those in sporting events. But eventually, these things might lead us forward in different ways of interpreting what can the human body do. And I think it's going to be a really exciting time. I think, frankly, within a 10 to 20-year window, most disabilities disappear entirely, as everybody has access to stem cells, genetic engineering kind of things, and also endoskeleton. This idea that your spine is great, but honestly, your spine is made of biology. We might have something better than that come in 10, 15 years. We'll give you titanium things that can work with your neural interfaces and stuff like that. And then you start talking about not just running a little bit faster, but running faster than cheetahs, start running fast as race cars. And then it gets really bizarre. But, that's still maybe 20 years out. But that's, it's not just 10 years old, all of a sudden we're all great healthy. It's really, how far do we take this?
What scares you the most about advances like that in the future, 10, 20 years from now, 30 years from now?
Well, I think what scares me most, even though I do come sort of from a libertarian mindset, is that it won't be available to everybody. Only the rich will have access to some of this stuff first. So we need to make a very strong effort to not create a dystopian future where, I suppose everybody sort of, ends, and not everybody gets the technology, only the 1%ers. This would be something that I think is the biggest challenge in transhumanism right now, is to make sure that we all have access to it. We all have a chance to overcome disabilities, imperfections, or diseases and stuff like that, not just the super wealthy. And I don't actually have all the answers on how to do that, but it's a discussion that must happen worldwide, and certainly America as well.
Yeah. One thing I want to get to is I want to talk to you about your ideas on UBI, talking about your land dividend. That was pretty interesting, I read, because I heard the other presidential candidate, Andrew Yang, was talking about it, and was talking about, giving people like $1,000. And And it says, well, where will the money go? It's like a lot of times they say, well, it goes right back into the economy because these people that get it are often going to go out, spend money, go eat, go buy stuff. Those places could make more money and hire on more people. But then he's like, oh, well, where does the money come from? And people are like, well, tax the rich, or or some other form of it. And it's got the military people say, and there's no answer. But what you said about the land, not just selling it so they could do whatever, but leasing it so that they actually have to, like an apartment, like a security deposit. You can't destroy it. You got to leave it in good condition. And that was something I thought was brilliant.
Well, thank you. Yeah, no, that is one of my major policies. Is really, just so your listeners know, about 50% of the Western 11 most Western United States in the U.S. are empty federal land. And we were talking about literally what some people consider approximately 150 to $200 trillion worth of natural resources. Now, just so you know, our national debt is only $20 trillion. So the amount of resources we have is massive. But the problem is that the environmentalists, and I appreciate the environmentalist approach, but they are trying to save this for these far, far future generations. And I'm like, wait a sec, man, I'm not even sure we're going to be humans in like 100 years. What we need now is to end poverty today and make it so everybody has access to healthcare because they can use their federal land dividend to pay for their own healthcare, whatever they want. But the bottom line is, with so much empty land, it's the right of the people to have access to it. And what would the people do with it? Well, I mean, most of them aren't going to go out farming, but what we could do is start leasing that out to companies, corporations, whatever, who would then pay us money back. And then everybody in America, and I mean everybody, the rich and the poor, would have access to it. It's kind of our birthright, this land, and yet they're preserving it, all this land, for future generations. And the very sad part about this is poor people and even middle-class people rarely get to visit a lot of these lands. These lands are out of reach for most people because only the rich people go on vacations. It's kind of a fact. And the reality is that we need to make that land, convert it to something that makes sense from a monetary point of view, and give it back to the people, to the rich and to the poor, in a form of a dividend. And that's, really my basic income. It's based on land. Does not raise taxes. It just monetizes the empty land. And not all of it. I'm not talking about monetizing national parks. I mean, there's so much land out there. We have I think there's something like 80 million acres. We're talking about vast amounts of forest and resources and different types of mountains and everything. You could touch, just to give you an idea, like the California coastline is worth between $3 and $5 billion, but a huge amount of it is empty land. If they would just let people build houses there, that in itself could pay a huge dividend for a lot of Americans, for the entire country, let alone what California would get. So, but right now it's kind of like there's a lot of environmentalists are saying we must protect the earth. And like I said, while I appreciate that, I care more about protecting people and making sure they have food at night and a house over their head. That's really what I care about. And honestly, it's controversial, but for me, ending poverty is really the number one priority that I sort of have in America. And I think that makes the country better, moves the transhumanist movement forward, and also makes it so that we don't kind of create this have and have-nots divide. And we have so much natural resources. We need to return it to the people.
Yeah, we especially need it because automation and AI and robotics is taking over jobs. Of course,
that's coming too. I mean, that's a whole nother argument that really pushes forward the necessity of a universal basic income, however we do it. I mean, I know mine's the only one out there that's not raising taxes, but I can assure you, whether we like it or not, there's probably going to have to be a universal basic income just simply because of automation within the next decade or two.
Yeah. The one thing I want to say is
this is going to be the last thing because it's been 15 minutes.
Yeah. The last thing I wanted to say is because I read this article by this guy, Gray Scott. He was talking about kind of what you said, the environmentalist kind of attitudes, like just preserve it right now, don't touch it. But a lot of times they say it's like technology. No, we got to get advanced in our technology, and through technology and other innovations, we're going to find things that can kind of geoengineer and do stuff, not just stop, preserve it, because we gotta not just preserve, we gotta mitigate, we gotta do other stuff if we want to be here past 2100 because unless we get it done in this century, it's pretty much
No,
It's
it's all
all things
yeah.
point to very, very bad.
It's all about using science to improve the natural world. That's my big thing is bioengineering, geoengineering. Let's use radical science to improve the human being and improve the human experience and improve the environment. We can change climate change, not just because of, we're, driving everywhere and burning, gases and whatnot. We can actually, create a better environment and a better climate just by perhaps putting stuff in the air or by regrowing rainforest through genetic editing that now regrow in 1 year instead of 20 years. I mean, yes, I'm worried about cutting down the Amazon, but I'm also a very strong believer that we're going to be able to regrow the Amazon much more quickly than it grew in the past through different types of methods like genetic editing. And when it comes down to like, wow, the climate's starting to change, I think you can rely on human nature to find ways to preserve the planet because nobody wants to live in a dump. I don't want to, but I also realize that I don't want, a world where we sort of stop technology in order to keep it pristine, or what our version of pristine is. I just think we have to get to these inflection points when all of a sudden we say, wow, the ocean has really risen 5 feet and there goes New York City. Then it's time to really say, okay, wait a sec. What can we do to stop this? How can we start doing this? Is there ways to reduce the ocean? There's so many different types of every single problem we have out there can be solved with technology, including the environmental ones. And I think we should be putting a lot more money and resources into not lessening our carbon footprint, but improving the technology so that we can withstand climate change and things like that and make it so we can be better stewards of the earth through our technological prowess instead of, like I said, taking less flights or driving less cars. I think there's a much better balance to be fit.
I really like what you
That's
said
brilliant.
right there. The stewards of Earth, and the positive thing is like we're geoengineering bacteria to be able to digest plastic, and
Yes, of
also
course. Great
the
ideas.
other uplifting fact I read is there's more trees now in America than there were 100 years ago, due to environmentalism and other things. So it's like there's a way, and it's like wow, really? I thought like deforestation. No, actually, there's more trees now because of our efforts. So, and that's just in now. Imagine what we'll be able to do in the future, as you said, with the Amazon and the other things. It's really, really, really profound. But anyway, thank you so much for your
Yeah,
time.
thanks a lot, Zoltan.
Hey,
And make sure everyone goes to zoltan.com and check out his website.
Yeah, check them out.
And go buy his book, The Transhumanist Wager. It's a great way to understand all the topics we're talking about and transhumanism in general. And yeah, thanks so much, Zoltan, for talking with us.
Hey, thanks so much, you guys. Looking forward to seeing this when it's out, and thank you for having me.